So, good morning and welcome to the Win Team. We're going to spend this week talking about offers, the offer writing process, the mentality around offers. By Wednesday, I'm actually going to go into the offer contract and go over different items of the contract that I use when I write an offer that is convincing for the buyer and for the seller. So, it'll be very constructive for you guys. We're going to talk about the seller's mindset and the buyer's mindset, how you bring the two together. That's going to be the main theme today. I'm going to dig into preempting so that you can have more buyers write offers. Of course, with this, everything comes down, as it always does with Andrew, it comes down to the KPIs. And if you remember last week, we talked about understanding your KPIs, creating that blueprint for predictable success. We all agreed we wanted a predictable business. And that comes down to what you do, how often you do it, and then looking at those ratios and making sure the ratios make sense. If you remember, I brought this out last week, which was a simple KPI monitor, similar, if you like, to Bob, but this is what leads up to Bob. And I asked you guys, okay, how many prospects are you working with in your follow-up boss? How many prospects do you have in Bob? And we talked about the progression to take people from being on a list to being a lead to then becoming a Bob 90-day prospect. There were three distinctions we made, right? So from a list, that's just a list you buy, right? And a lot of teams say, just sit down in front of this computer or this laptop and we'll dump a list on you that we've paid a subscription for and it's just raw. That's list calling. Very, very tough. After list, you go from list to lead. It's a lead when the person responds back to you that they may or may not be interested in buying or selling, right? And then as you develop a relationship with that lead, that converts into a Bob person. That's somebody in your book of business who has said to you that they will buy or sell property in the next 90 days. So I said, okay, how many do you have in your Bob? And we know the formula. If you want to do 24 deals, you have to have 24 people in Bob. That's the formula. Then I ask you, how many do you have in escrow in July already open before July the 1st? Then how many escrows you have opened in July in addition to the ones that were already open? Because on the Win Team, we all agreed that we would make a commitment that the minimum we would do would be to put one property in escrow and close one every month. So, okay, where are we? Where are we on that commitment? Where are we in the number that we had in July, have in July in escrow that were open before July the 1st? And how many have we put in since July the 1st? Then we talked about the number of new listings in July. And then here came this huge KPI. What's the number of appointments that you've held so far in July? Because the number of appointments is an indicator of possibility and probability. One appointment, very low probability that you'll do one offer a week, right? And one escrow a month. 10 appointments in a week, very high probability. Appointments. 5 appointments in a week, very high probability. If you're going to do 24 deals in a year, you need at least 20 of these appointments in a month. If you're doing 20 appointments in a month, you match that into your power tracker, you're going to create what we call predictable success, probable success, right? Most real estate agents, the chances of success are very improbable. Why? Because the KPIs are not there. And then you meet people like on the Win Team guys, you have a much higher probability of success because your KPIs are there. And I want to invite you again, look here. This number of leads, I said you need at least 200 leads in this column here. 200 that you will now work to bring down to 24. So it's actually roughly 1 in 4 that you're going to convert, not from list, but from lead to Bob, because the leads that we send you, like in the Blitz program, hopefully you guys all completed the questionnaire on the Blitz program. The Blitz program is what will provide you enough possibility. So you see here, Anna's got 265, Howard's got 128, Jonathan's got 200. Not sure yet where some of you guys are here. Some great agents here, right? Guadalupe, there's no numbers here. No numbers here. So it's impossible for me to really coach you guys, and if I don't know what you're putting into the funnel, right? So how many prospects do you have that you're working from? And of those, how many appointments are you making? Then we can look into that, and that's where the coaching element begins. If you guys don't have this, ask me at the end. I'll share it with you. But I'm looking here, there's a lot. Like, obviously, Leslie, this number needs to come up. Angelica, your number is rising. It needs to get up to 200. Cynthia, the same with you, right? Then you use my digital footprint. Many of you attended that. You use the digital footprint because it's the digital footprint that take people from here to here. But if there's nobody here, you can't get them here. Digital footprint moves people from here to here, right? Digital footprint is what gives you the possibility to create appointments, right? How many appointments do you have set this week, guys? You're getting up at 6:30 in the morning. How many appointments do you have? Number of appointments you have is directly related to the number of prospects you have. The number of prospects you have is directly related to the number of people that are in your bob. And the people in your bob, you're moving them. Remember, again, 3 of them that you move every day. That's exactly how you build that structure that's going to be the future of your business. Back to KPIs, I want to say to you one more time, guys. If you're going to have a party, do you count the number of guests before you have the party? How many of you do?
Yep.
Or you just kind of willy-nilly, buy a 6-pack and hope there's enough for people? What do you do?
Count.
Yeah, if you're going to have a dinner, Angelica, and you do you want to know how many people are going to be there, or you just like hopefully buy enough turkey that it'll enough to go around?
No, absolutely. Count.
Yeah, right. If you go on a journey now, forgive me, those of you who are electric car enthusiasts, but we used to use gas when I was younger. If you go on a journey, do you check the gas tank? Or you're just one of those people who gets in the car and hopes for the best? Most realtors don't check the gas tank ever. All they do is go and drink at the local bar and brag about how many people they have in escrow. And they're completely full of crap, because when you go into the MLS, you can see there's got one closing in the last 6 months. Realtors run on the seat of their pants, right? But you're professionals. You want to build a business. You want to ink your business. So if you're going to ink your business, check the gas tank. If you're going to ink your business, check the charge on your Tesla, if you're one of those people. Right? You got to know what you're running on. What are you running on? This tells you right here what you're running on. If you're below 200 here, your chances of doing 24 is very, very, very limited, right? So KPIs. They're constantly running our KPIs, constantly working this power performance tracker, driving us forward. Remember the 4 key indicators, right? Your power hours, your power office open house, where you do your power hours, your power doors that you do around your power office open houses and your showings, and your power pairing. Guys, you might go, well, this is a lot. Yeah, I'm training you to be business people. It's a lot to run IBM. It's a lot to run Tesla. It's a lot to run a major corporation. It's a lot to run a burger chain. You got to order stuff. You got to know how much gas you got in your tank. Now, once you get gas in the tank, you're now with buyers and with sellers. You've got to ask yourself, what about my offer writing process? Why is it sometimes that people seem so ready to write offers and other times they don't? Have you guys ever asked yourself that question? Why is it that sometimes it's so easy to write offers and other times it's not? Who's asked yourself that question?
Every time.
Why is it then? Why is it that sometimes people will write offers with you and other times you just can't get them to write offers to save your life? Why is that? Come on, guys. This is a coaching session.
That's
Huh?
why we're here, Andrew. That's what I want to know.
All right. So I'm going to go into that.
We didn't
Because it's
preempt him
frustrating.
properly.
Yep. 100%. Why else, John?
We didn't show up prepared.
Yep. Totally.
Mindset.
Mindset. Sometimes you just like, yeah, I just closed a $3 million deal. What you need to do is write an offer. And this is how I get $3 million deals done, right? But if it's like, well, yeah, I've just written on 3 mobile homes and none of the offers get accepted, but you should really trust me as your realtor because in your head, you're just not in that head space, right? Same thing again. Sorry to come back to it, but I'm just so into my son playing golf right now, that how well he's doing. Same thing. He walks up sometimes to that ball and it's spectacular. He just walks up. He's confident. He's going to hit that ball and he just plasters that ball or he precisely aims that ball. Other times he gets angry on the range and he's there and he can't hit a ball to save his life. All about same thing with offers. So I'm going to go through the different stages. First stage in writing an offer is bringing both sides together. So watch some baseline thoughts, right? Just as an opening part here. Ask yourself, how many offers do I write a week? Guys, again, minimum two. Minimum two. You must be writing 2 offers, different clients every week. Do not accept low standards, right? How many of you on this call would go out and go to a party and not brush your teeth? Can I ask?
That's so.
You'd all brush your teeth because you'd be prepared, right? Because you have pride. Have pride in your business. Writing offers like brushing your teeth. You're not even at the party if you're not writing offers, right? So, how many offers do you write a week? Don't accept a low standard. Don't show up with all like, gooked up, you brush your teeth, you get yourself ready. Girls, you put your face on. How many offers do you write a week? How many appointments do you have a week? Take pride in this. Take pride in this stat right here. How many appointments? Do you know right now? How many appointments do you have this week? Put it in here. How many appointments have you held in July so far? Do you see I say goal actual? So somebody here said my goal is 2 appointments. I've actually held 1. That's good. Whoever that is. Well, that's not Jonathan Morani. You just haven't filled it in, right? What's your goal on appointments? What's your actual, right? And these are the people you're going to write offers for. Now, your baseline KPI is this. You divide B by A. You have 10 appointments a week. You wrote 2 offers. So your conversion is 1 in 5. That's your KPI. Divide B by A and you know your success formula. If you have 2 appointments and you don't write any offers, your success formula is 0. If you have 8 appointments and you write 2 offers, your success formula is 1 in 4. Now you gear everything around that. You know how many open houses to do, how many power office open houses to do, how many power doors to knock on, because your success formula is 1 in 4. Now you don't focus so much on writing the offer. You just focus on the success formula. Do the 4, do the 4, do the 4. Why? Because I do 1 in 4. Do the 4, do the 4, do the 4. Why? Because I do 1 in 4. But how do you know what your success formula is? What is your success formula, Mirka, Jonathan? What is your success formula, Cynthia? What is your success formula, Anna? What is your success formula? What is it? Is it 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 6, 1 in 7, 1 in, dear Jesus, please give me an offer? What is it? Is it faith or fact? What is your process? Improve the formula and maximize your use of time by increasing A as a percentage of B. Improve your success formula by increasing your at-bats, which means more appointments. Polish what you say, craft how you say it, be credible in your appearance and performance, and ask for more offers. Now, Jonathan nailed it. That credibility. Does your digital footprint create credibility? Are you credible? Are you available? Are you aware? Does that create in your buyer's mind? There's Jonathan. I meant to ask him. That's what buyers should be thinking when they see you. There's Anna. I meant to ask her. Hey, honey, what was that you wanted to ask our professional? Hey, here comes Mirka. What was it we wanted to ask her? That's what should be in your buyer's minds, that you have fed information to them. You have fed maturity to them. You have fed facts to them. You have fed ideas to them, blogs to them, links to them, that when they show up, they go, ask her about that one you saw up the street. Ask her about that sign around the corner. Ask her about that one that we saw on realtor.com. Are you the ask her about agent? Or are you the let's get away from them agent? Don't forget to ask Jonathan when you see him. Honey, ask Jonathan when you see him. Honey, ask Cliff when you see him. How do you get there? Why? Because you're polished in what you say. You've crafted how you say it. You're credible in your appearance and your performance. Now, when you have that, ask for more offers. The art of negotiation is to understand both sides and then close the gap. Do you hear that? Understand both sides and close the gap. To succeed, ask your buyer to step into the seller's shoes and have them read their own offer as though they were the seller. It's a powerful tool I learned nearly 20 years ago. Writing a winning offer isn't about throwing out demands. It's about beginning a conversation. And I often say that to buyers. Often I say that. Often I'll say that to sellers, agents. I'll say, hey, Jonathan, let's say Jonathan's a listing agent. Jonathan, got a buyer coming in with an offer. Just want to bring us all to the table and start a conversation. Would love it, my friend, if you could present it to your seller and just enter the conversation with us and let us know what's good and what could be better, okay? Good if I send that over to you in the next 10 minutes? Now, I've started a
That's good.
conversation. How many of you do that when you call a listing agent? How many of you say, let's start a conversation? How many of you say to your buyers, let's start a conversation? The core concept to winning as a buyer is to think like a seller, right? Hey, guys, can I give you a piece of advice? Core concept to having a good relationship with a woman is think like her. That's the biggest problem men have. We want women to think like men. Doesn't happen. Women, you
Mhm.
want men to think like women. Doesn't happen. We're too stupid. So you got to give us space. You got to train us. The core concept for a buyer to win is to think like the seller. So preempt your buyers, prompt them. Say, you know what? Let's say Mirka's my buyer today. Mirka, let's do this. We're going to put together your offer today, and I know how important this is to you. Let's imagine for a second that you're the seller and three offers have come in and one of them's yours. What do you think would make them like your offer more than the others? And this always shocks buyers. And it's a conversation. Now you're not lecturing, you're not wagging a realtor finger at them, right? You're sitting down having a consultation. So, by the way, that's always the way why nurses, I hate it actually when they do it. They come into the room and say, have we eaten our jello? Well, no, you're not eating my jello because it's not good enough. I'm eating my jello. But it's this whole we thing that they say, right? We are doing this together. So ask your buyer what stands out in your offer. Would you counter your offer? Would you accept it or decline it? That's a very powerful question to ask buyers. Hey, Cameron, so this offer we're writing for you today, would you accept it as it is? Or would you counter offer it? What do you think you would do if you were a seller? Now you've prepared that buyer, they're going to get a counter offer. So the buyer won't freak out when they get a counter offer because you've already asked them what they would counter their own offer. Now they're waiting for that counter offer, aren't they? You see, it's about intelligence. It's about preparing yourself. It's the art of the deal. Ask your buyer as a seller, would you feel confident about you as a buyer? That's my job, Cameron, to put you in the best light to the seller. That's why I'm a buyer's broker. You're not just making an offer, you're building trust and communication through a document. So let's have a look at the key deal elements. And I'm going to really get into this on Wednesday. The key deal elements to discuss with every buyer. Obviously, price. But let's talk about price. It's competitive pricing rather than emotional pricing. Now, you don't want to say that to a buyer because they will think you think they're being emotional. But you need to understand that the goal here is to create competitive rather than emotional pricing, right? You're what I call, obviously, the comparative market analysis mindset. But what do I mean by that? Here's your tip. Have an agent one-line summary of the last sales to show your buyer how close the last sales were to the asking price. Now, by now, you should all have a sales box in your vehicle. In that sales box, you've got buyer presentations, you've got seller presentations, you've got material on the team, and you've got information pieces. It's a manila folder with information there. So if you're regularly showing in Whittier, you should print out at least once every 2 weeks. Closed sales last 30 days in Whittier. And in the agent one line column, there's one line that shows what the sold price was, and was it green arrow up or red arrow down. If you see multiple red arrows, you can tap on 8 or 9 of those and have them in the thumbnail printout. Listen carefully. This is very specific training I'm giving you. You have the thumbnail printout of the last 8 and show, yeah, look, that one was $895, sold for $870. That one was $925, sold for $920. That one was $689, sold for $735. Oh, that's interesting. Look, the lower down, it looks like they're going over asking price. That one was $845, sold for $865. But do you see it was completely rehabbed? So now you're shaping, just like you shape in a listing appointment, you're shaping the buyer's mind before you start. So discuss pricing in the context of fact. What did I say up here? Polish what you say, craft how you say it. Don't just go in flying on the seat of your pants. Polish what you say, craft how you say it. Be credible in appearance and in performance. So your first piece is you're going to talk about pricing. Second is cash or financing. And obviously, most of our buyers use financing. So, how strong is this financing type? Because understand, most listing agents fly by the seat of their pants. They don't like to work buyers. They've been taught by most of the major trainers that buyer are liars. They have a negative attitude towards buyers. They just want to get in escrow so they can go out and relax with their families and not have to work hard. Now you're bringing in an offer with FHA, VA, don't even know what VA is. Most agents don't even know what a VA no-no is. Don't have a clue. Don't know who underwrites a VA, who guarantees a VA, how strong a VA is. Is it as strong as cash? Is it not? They don't know. So how strong is your financing type? This is going to be your job to convey this to that listing agent. If the down payment is low, be ready to impress the seller about the strength of the bank. And you do that by using a DU, which is a desktop underwritten approval, right? All good lenders like Derek, like Christian, like the Zillow home loan officers will give you a desktop underwritten approval. It shows the certainty of the loan. So if they don't have cash, cash is certain, right? If they don't have cash, the bank has cash. And that's the message you have to convey. Look, the buyer in this instance doesn't have cash, but they are so strong as a buyer. The bank has given them a desktop underwritten approval beforehand, and the bank has got way more money than a cash buyer. You know what? Your cash buyer might have a car accident. Halfway through the escrow, you fall out. Your cash buyer might have a family crisis. Somebody might get ill. Halfway through the escrow, they have to pull out. Your cash buyer might have that cash in a 401k. That 401k might not release it on time, and your escrow will fall out. But my bank has got $3 billion in funding through Wall Street. They have plenty of cash. And when they say they've got cash, they've got cash. I have a very strong buyer with a very strong cash backing, and the cash backing is their bank, and the bank's given them a DU approval. How many of you have said that when you've written an offer? Now you go into the whole area of buyer motivation and buyer qualification. Has your buyer written a compelling letter? Now, I know that there are rules and regulations about whether or not you can present the letter. Did you know that in a listing agreement, there's a box that the seller can check that they want to see letters from buyers because they want to know about their buyers if they're emotionally connected to the property? So even though there are restrictions, many agents will present those letters. Write it. Write it. At least the agent will see it and see the commitment of your buyer. right? Show how the buyer is prepared to act fast. You have to give that idea, right? When you call the listing agent, let them know, you know what, my buyer's got kids, they need to get into school. They're really anxious to get into a home. We'd love for it to be your home. I'm going out with them again this weekend, of course, because they're so motivated, but they would love to not have to go out with me again this weekend. Do you think we could get an answer today or by tomorrow? How is it going with your seller? Right? Now, immediately you've created this idea of involvement, right? Now, not only does the buyer have to qualify, the house has to qualify. If your buyer's writing VA, did you know that you cannot get a VA appraiser to sign off on a house if the house has paint flaking on it on the outside? That seller has to paint the flaking paint area before it will close. I have, on many occasions, climbed up onto people's garage roof and I've painted that little piece above the garage because it was flaking paint and the sellers wouldn't do it. So I showed up and did it. Right? Does the house qualify? If you're writing an FHA loan, there's unpermitted rooms, the heating doesn't work, the air conditioning doesn't work, there's no stove. Now the house doesn't qualify. I've bought stoves and put them in houses for buyers. Cheap little stoves, $150 stoves, but you have to have a stove in there to close the deal. The buyer says, look, Andy, we've got one on order. We don't want to put it in the house until it's closed. I've put stoves in houses. How did you sell 2,000 houses, Andrew? Now you're finding out how, right? I would do it. FHA won't finance a house if there's no carpet in one of the rooms. I've put carpet in rooms. I've just shown up with a piece of carpet, thrown carpet down the room. Boom, in comes the appraiser. Oh, we got carpet in that room. Yip-de-doo. Right? We close the deal. Does the house qualify? Does the buyer qualify? Does the house qualify? Does the buyer qualify? And so when I have buyers who are low down payment, VA, FHA, and they're looking at crazy fixes, they're either going to do one of those FHA rehab loans, in which case they need to speak to my financial friend up front, or we need to move them towards another type of property where the low down payment, the loan is going to be approved. Does the house qualify? Your next piece, of course, I'm going to go into all this in detail on Wednesday, is the contingency period. You know, you have 3 contingency periods: your inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, and loan contingency. Of course, the shorter the timelines, the more confidence for the sellers. And I'm going to give you another trick right here. I'd like you to tell me if you've ever done this. Here it is. Here's the listing agent. Listing agent in this case is Anna. Hey, Anna, look, it's Andy. Yeah, thanks so much for that last deal. It was cool, right? Yeah. Look, I got another buyer, Cecilia. She just loves your house and really wants to get the escrow done as soon as possible, as soon as convenient to your seller. Could we get her in and get all inspections done in the first 72 hours? Would that be possible with your seller? What do you think? Now, if I asked you that, Anna, as a listing agent, what would you think about my buyer?
You have a strong buyer?
100%. Have you ever asked that?
No.
Do it. I've given you 2 or 3 tips here that are like red light tips. You need to just underline them, right? Remember the first one up here? Remember this one I gave to you? Have the agent one line summary of the last sales, right? This is very powerful, right? And then right here, I just said it again. Yes, ask the seller or seller's agent if your buyer can do the inspections in a short period of time. Right there. Well, I just changed that. It's the wrong color. Right here. Right there. This is power. Hey, Cameron, I got a buyer. His name's George. Loves your house. Look, man, he wants your seller to be super confident. Is there any way we can do physical inspection, termite, all the inspection, get them out of the way in the first 3 days and get the inspection contingencies out of the way? Is there any way we can do that? Oh, well, Andrew, I think we need a week or 7 days. So what would you like me to put in the offer? Like a 7-day contingency? Great. That's what I'll do. Anything else that you want that your seller really needs? Yeah, Andy, they want 3 days after close of escrow. So you'd like to stay for 3 days, right? So maybe if we do an SIP at no cost to your seller and they have 3 days after close, how would your seller feel about that? Cool. What else would make it work? Cool. Back to your buyer. Hey, man, I had a conversation with the listing agent. Really, really cool. Look, we can get all your inspection contingencies out of the way in the first 3 days. So remember, I shared with you, I've got a couple of physical inspectors who will just jump because I do a lot of business. We can get that done in the first 3 days together. Okay. And then we'll know exactly where we stand. That's pretty exciting, right? Also, they did ask, they want a couple of days after we close, but you don't mind, right? We can just like hold over a couple of days in your rental. Yeah. So I think we've got a strong chance of getting the offer accepted. Let's write it good and strong, right? You like this property. Cool. Look, here's the list of the last sales. Do you see in this price range, the last 4 that sold? Look, I printed them out for you. See, it was 695 sold at 725, 685 sold at 715. Yeah. So where do you want to be? This one's 675. Where do you want to be to make us competitive? Boom. I just wrote an offer. What did I do? I found out what the seller wanted, found out what the buyer wanted. I'm moving the buyer to think like the seller and the seller to accommodate the buyer. Post-close possession, I just alluded to that, is the seller requesting rent back or early move out. Ask the seller's agent if they need extra time, right? Let's talk also about special terms and special requests, credits, rate buy downs, repair requests. Ask the seller or the seller's agent in advance if there's any wiggle room. Now, be very careful how you do this. Listen to me. In this market right now, saving 25 grand on a price really does the buyer almost no good, right? $25,000, 5.5% loan, 60, 70 bucks a month. Maybe it helps, right? What's important is what to do with that money. Hey, John, I see this listing on Main Street. My buyer absolutely loves it. Look, man, now listen to what I say. Look, you seem to have priced it really well by the comps. Like always, man, you did a great job. I got to ask you this question because it's just some things they're trying to do, right? What's your feeling? Is there some wiggle room in the price? Oh, Andrew, we got 4 offers over asking. Now, you can always tell when a listing agent's lying because if they say, no, we've got offers over asking, it's been on the market 87 days, probably not, right? So you're just going to write it anyway. Just say, oh, thank you so much. You don't say, hey, I think you're a liar. That's not good, right? But they say, look, Andy, we've got offers over asking. Okay, thank you. All right, that's great. Perfect. Cash offers, financed. And then they're going to start to trip up. But let's say it's actually an agent that tells the truth and they say to you, look, Andy, we've got offers over asking. Okay, I get it. Have a conversation, find out where you're at. But you're going to see more and more in the market that they don't necessarily have a stack of other offers. So first of all, you compliment them. Hey, look, great job on pricing this property. Got to ask you the question, right? What sort of wiggle room do you think there is? Some stuff my buyers would like to do. What do you think? Look, Andy, they don't want to reduce the price anymore, but I think I could, get another $10,000, $15,000. Okay. This is where you have the conversation with the agent. Do not assume the agent knows what a buy down is. Most agents think that a buy down is a 2-1 buy down. They don't know about permanent buy downs. They don't know how they work. They don't know how they get priced. So you explain to them, look, my buyer can afford this home. What makes it really affordable to them is a payment right around X. And I've already pre-calculated with my lender, Christian or Derek, that if we do a 1-point buy down, this is roughly a cost of about 20 grand. The payment is just in that perfect zone where we can close this loan really fast. What do you think the chances are if we come in at full price and ask for 20 grand in a credit? What do you think about explaining that to your seller? Right now, you've had the whole conversation with the agent before you even start. What you're doing here is making your asks well justified. Do you see? It's a justifiable ask, and you're matching the information you gain on the seller. Right now, you're matching the seller and the buyer. Finally, your last piece, well, a couple more actually, really fast, is how fast or slow is the close going to be? It's not always in the seller's interest. You say, hey, look, my buyers want to move in 10 days. Most families are going to freak out with that. Does it match the seller's moving plan? Sometimes fast is too fast, and sometimes slow is a deal killer. Find out in advance about the timeline. This is all about a chat. So this document right here, if you like, we will share this with you again. You can take this as a checklist. And as you're talking to the listing agent, just make sure you've covered these main questions. Right? So let me just roll down right here. Here's the way to talk with your buyer. Let's think about what would make this a yes offer for the seller. You know what, John? It's not always the highest offer because they might say to you, look, I don't want to write a full price offer. Get them to write the offer, right? Always get them to write the offer. John, you know what? It's not the highest offer, but sometimes it's the cleanest, clearest, most dependable offer. Let's get something in writing and get the seller to work with us. That's where you're going to bring in your lender. Your lender's going to have that call, talk about the strength of the bank, the size of the money that's available to this buyer, the desktop underwritten approval, right? First of all, you have to get your buyer to write that offer. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Let's think about, Mr. Buyer, what would make this a yes for the seller? And I know you don't want to write full price, but it's not always the highest offer. It's the cleanest, clearest, and most dependable offer. So look, I hope these were really good tips for you. I went over because I'm seeing a lot of you putting offers in escrow. We've put a ton in escrow this month. Many of you are still aspiring and reaching up, and I want to encourage you to own the offer process. I want to ask you to do something before tomorrow. I'd like you to choose one buyer whose offer was rejected in the last month. Think about what you could have done differently. And I'm going to ask you at the outset tomorrow to share it with the team. And then I'm going to ask you to choose a buyer that you're working with now and ask the team how you can write a strong offer. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Any quick comments at the end? I went a little bit over today. Was this beneficial to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Very.
Yes, it
Great
is.
stuff.
Yes.
It was. Thank
Give me your
you.
give me your biggest nugget, guys.
I think the 72 hours to get inspections done, usually I only bring that up when it's like an investor that I know that can
Totally.
move quickly.
Totally.
But not for a traditional buyer, but I can see how that can be, maybe make the offer obviously better.
Totally. And you know what, Mirka, if you say it to them, which you do because you're an empath, if you can say it to them in such a way as, you know what, Mirka, I can get all this inspection stuff done in the first 3 days. You have to worry about it for the next 2 weeks. You cool if we get an inspector in there in the next 24 hours? What's a good day for you? What you're doing is now you're leading that short timeline as a benefit to them rather than something intimidating to them. Does that make sense?
Yep,
You're showing your mastery, basically.
exactly.
That's what you're doing.
For me,
All right.
it was the conversation, period.
Yeah,
Find out what the seller's hot button is. There might be more than one, but that's it. It's in a nutshell. Talk about it.
do you want Joe's crazy little thing here? Guess where I learned that works with people? Can you
I
take a
don't
guess?
know. Yeah, trial and error.
Marriage counseling as a pastor. I got so sick of just hearing women complain about men and men complain about women, and then they got divorced anyway. I felt like this is just such a waste of time. Say a little prayer, everybody feels better about it, and away you go. I thought, if I'm going to do this, why not try and actually have marriages be happy, right? And so I learned it worked way better if I could ask each of the parties, what would you really like out of this? Right. And
Yeah.
if the guy's sitting there with his arms folded, you're kind of onto a losing thing up front, right? So don't spend too much time on that one. Or the girl, right? Sometimes the girl came in and was like, right.
Yeah. There's a
But
good Pink Floyd song that touches all that.
yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe, it really, if you can help the buyer see this is a conversation. Let me ask you this, guys, to Joseph's point. If you can get the buyer to see it's a conversation, that's powerful. Who else needs to see that it's a conversation?
The seller and the
Yeah,
seller's
but
agent.
The seller's agent.
bada boom, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think more sellers agents kill deals than sellers do. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Even with the lust for money, still sellers agents will get on a high horse because what we've been taught for 100 years. We've been taught we're invincible. You got a listing, you're invincible, right? So, yes, conversation. Any other last minute nuggets, guys? I know you got to run. Any other nuggets?
The keeping the emotion out of it.
Keep the offer clean and precise.
We're going to do that Wednesday. Very clean, very precise, and keeping that emotion out of it. The emotion triggers, guys, that you hear from people are here's it. Well, you tell me, what are some of the emotional things that buyers say that you know you need to manage your way through this?
We
They're
want
scared
to get
about
the
the
best
payment.
deal, Andrew.
What's that? Say it again, Jonathan.
We want to get the best deal.
Okay, I don't know. That's so emotional,
It's
but I
emotional
get it.
because if you provide them the proof of what the comps are in the area, you've had that conversation, you've preempted, you've gone over
That's it.
and over and over, and
That's
they
it.
want to still write it 25,000 below, even though it's showing 50 above.
So if that does
But we
happen,
want the best deal.
I know. So that's emotional. So if that does happen, what do you do?
Bring your
Um,
one-liner.
Yes. And if at last
Write it.
resort, what do you do?
Right.
Everything. Right.
Write it.
Exactly. Now, there was a lady
yeah.
who spoke up and said, what's an example of emotionalism in an offer writing? Who was it who spoke up?
Oh, I
Okay.
said it being emotional. And I think also like as an agent, like you said, listing agents sometimes kill the deals
Yeah.
because I think I've been there before. And as an agent, you have to learn to not be emotional. Like,
Yes.
the agents probably get on your nerves, you're gonna get on their nerves. At the end of the day, you're there to provide a service for your client and work together.
It's that whole thing of you ever been at a meal table, like a family meal table, and God forbid not every member of the family gets along perfectly. um, and somebody stands up from the meal table and walks away. Has anybody been in that situation?
Yes,
It's
Mhm.
very tense, isn't it?
Yes,
absolutely.
very.
You really want to avoid that. You want to keep everybody at the table.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to bite your tongue.
Yes. As as a listing agent, the focus is ultimately you gotta sell that house. And if that's a good offer and it's good for your client, that's what's gotta happen.
So it's that whole, and that's maturity speaking. It's, how do we make this work? I know, Mirka, you sold I think 65 listings. How do we make this work? How do we? And I know a lot of that rational talking goes away when the market is just spiking, and there's cash money coming in and agents just are invincible. But those are very small periods. When you look over a 30-year period of time, there's maybe 3 out of 30 years when the market's like that. The other 27 years, it's a matter of keeping people at the table. So keep emotion out of it. The one that I've heard a lot that's very emotional is, could you find out if there's any other offers? We're not going to get into a bidding war. Well, who calls two bids a war? It's, it's not a war, it's a discussion.
That's
It's not
right.
a war. So that shows emotional insecurity. It shows emotional immaturity. It shows somebody who's being manipulated by YouTube videos. It just shows an immaturity, but you can't say to them, you're immature. Hey, Cynthia, you're my buyer. You're really immature thinking like that. It's probably not going to go very far, right? You're going to go, that guy's rude, right? But people do have a lot of emotional immaturity. I'm not going to get into a bidding war. And you can't teach them that two bids is not a war, it's a discussion. So obviously, what do you say when they say, I'm not going to get into a bidding war? What do you say immediately? 3 words.
How much do
I
you want the
completely
house?
We
understand.
Understand.
Completely
Completely
understand.
understand.
Where do you feel comfortable starting? And now you've disarmed the whole situation. Well, I want to find out if there's, anyways, we could go into a long training just on that. Keep the emotion out of it, right? Always step back a pace, step back 2 paces, and find out where they want to be. Guys, I've got 5 of these trainings this week, and I believe it's going to be hugely beneficial to you. Got some great training coming up on Wednesday. Look, it's the 18th of the month. You got 13 days left. That's 2 full weeks, right? July is a long month, as they call it, right? Great opportunity. Let's have every single person on the win team putting a minimum of 1 offer in escrow this month. Do we all say amen to that?
Amen.
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 Kids,
Amen.
look at your
Amen.
appointments, kids. Ramp up those appointments this week. Get out on those appointments. Use these tools that I give you, and I'll help you get those offers over the finish line. I love every one of you. I'm proud of you. You are fantastic professionals. Make it a great week, okay?